You're listening to another episode of Battles with Bits of Rubber.
Chris, thanks for doing this, man.
That's all right.
Really appreciate
you.
My
pleasure.
Been looking forward to this for a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
I have.
Don't disappoint.
I have something to live up to then. Okay, I'll do my best to fulfill this.
Was it today or yesterday we were talking about Joey?
Yeah, Joey the horse.
Yeah, Joey's a funny one.
Talk us through Joey the horse from the movie Warhorse.
It's funny. I've had a lot of good publicity for my Joey footage. And when I first... I took that footage first to show Spielberg. We were... he didn't know we'd built that. And we were in Dartmoor. And it was super foggy. And we were hanging around. And we just took this stuff down in case he might need it. And of course, horses are really good to train. You know, they're really easy to train. So a lot of these things... like on some films, you build them as an insurance policy just in case you can't get the horse to do it. But of course, if you can get the horse to do it, it's better. So I filmed this thing and I took it over to him to show him, and his reaction was really funny. So I took the video camera over. It wasn't a phone, it was a video camera. That's how long ago it was now. And I sort of showed him. He said, "Oh, what did we are you doing impressions of him?" Oh, what? Sorry, Mr. Spielberg. So wait, what are you going to show me? He said, yeah. So I sort of played this footage, and he just sat there like looking down at it, and he's got a slight frown. And he goes, yeah, okay, one. What am I looking at? He says, he said, every day I'm surrounded by fucking horses. Why am I looking at another one? And then it pulled back to show me on the back of it. And he reeled back from the camera. He went, oh shit! He said, wow! He said, none of that was real? I said, no. So we barely used that horse. But what it did do is show him that we can actually do a believable horse. So it opened up the avenue to making the horse that's in no man's land, caught in the barbed wire, because I think at the time they didn't know how they were going to do that. I think they're going to do it digitally, you know. So yeah, Adrian Parish and Terry Jones then made that version while I was doing other things.
Terry Jones the Mechie, not Terry Jones
not Terry Jones the Python alumni. Terry Jones the Mechie, and they put that together, and then we all got underneath in a wooden box under the ground. And puppeteering it, and I puppeteered with the head and the neck, and then other guys did the body and the feet.
No, I've got that video that I show students, and on that pullback, it is always a because it looks like you're up to your elbows in a horse's ass, but just the movements of that face are incredible.
And so a lot of that's down to puppeteering, but there's a lot going on under that skin. I've got multiple paddles going on under the nose to try and replicate the stretch they can do in the reach. But I've also got loads of paddles at the side around the mouth corners, because when you watch a horse chew, all the muscles around the mouth corners are all pulse and there's ripple. So I put a few paddles in there and then program them to kind of shift and move and twitch as whenever you move the mouth. Try and replicate that muscle and tendon movement you get underneath skin. And it just adds a believability. You can't put your finger on, but it's there.
Where does that ability... This is going to sound really lame, so forgive the clumsy manner in which I'm about to say what I'm going to say. How do you know how to do that? Like, you watch horses? Did you have to study horses, or have you done this so many times before that it's just in your head? Like if I was doing a cut, I don't need to see a cut to do it, or...
I'll answer that in two ways. Yeah, there's a lot of study. Loads of things in life I watch. I'm one of life's observers, I suppose, and I think other people who do my job with any kind of amount of success does the same thing. And you study the world and you notice not only what it does, but then you try and put logic to why it does it. Why an animal might act the way it does. It's like you watch a bird birds do this thing. They're obviously at the bottom of the food chain. You know, they're cats, dogs, anything to grab hold of it. And when they look around, they twitch here, they twitch there, and they stay still, then they look. Because if they drift around looking, you can't really focus, and when they're still, they're not as seeable, you know, and you have to put logic to why it's doing that. And if you understand why it does it, then it's easy to replicate it. Because you understand everything is logical. Everything has logic, even the illogical. There's logic to it. So yeah, and then the second part of it is actually being bothered to do it. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, no one will notice that," and I get this all the time when you work in a team. Say, "Oh, no one will notice that. I'm not going to bother putting down on that movement. No one will notice." And they might not notice it, but subconsciously they'll notice it's not there. And do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
And I think some of they think, "Oh, that looks wrong," and I don't know why. But if you put this thing in, then it won't look wrong, and then you don't need to know why because you've actually covered that base. So yeah, so I find those little flinches and twitches and do make all the difference.
No, it's brilliant. I love it. Same thing with stop motion animation. You know, look at the Aardman stuff. The Wallace and Gromit, where they're sitting at the kitchen table talking about Wembley cheese and so on. Yeah. And there's a clock on the wall, and the second hand is.
That's it.
It's in the background. It's not even in focus.
No.
It's not part of the thing. It's in the windows open, and you see birds fly by outside, and the trees are just kind of moving a little bit, and the
but
curtains.
It stops the action from just being that localized pod of movement. Suddenly, it's the whole vista of movement, which makes it rather than just being this ball of action. It makes it a world of action.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. I think it's the same thing.
Yeah. Because it doesn't significantly change the story, but it's about how it's told rather than the overall story.
It makes it alive. You might not notice it, but you look at it and go, something's off. You don't notice that drip of water getting bigger and bigger out of the faucet in the sink and finally going into a coffee cup in the sink.
So there's a fair bit a fair bit of you accumulating all these things. So you're not really thinking about. And I think it's the same with makeup. You don't start with the thing you do. You look at the thing you're going to be working on, and then you translate it into what mechanical aspects you would have to create.
Well, this comes to my first. Anybody who asks me anything about animatronics, I'm trying not to sound like a self-important asshole here, But people ask me, and they ask me for a reason. I don't question it, so I answer. But My whole thing with animatronics is you start at the end and you work your way back. You never work from the servos or the hydraulics forward. You work for the desired end result. Then you work backwards from there, from the skin backwards, and you never lose sight of that fact. You never lose sight of. It's like if someone shows you. If someone ever showed you a magic trick. And you go, wow, that's amazing. How the hell did that happen? Then they show you the mechanics of it. But what you must never lose sight of is that reaction that you had when you saw it, not knowing how it worked. And it's the same thing. You gotta look at what reaction, the way you want something to move or look, and never lose sight of that. You just gotta, and then as you're going through the stage of coring out and sculpting and molding, and never lose sight of what the end result is supposed to be. And that's what you're working towards. That is the Bible. That's the datum that you're working to. Is that the fact that it's got to look realistic. It's got to look fearful. It's got to look like a flight animal or a fight animal, And those things are really important. Yeah,
I think that's a good. That's why people who do what they do very well, they're not distracted by the mechanism of the tools or the materials.
Yeah,
you should be so familiar with those that you don't actively think about them. You're just concentrating on the end result.
One of my pet hates. I hate being referred to as an engineer. I hate that. And sometimes if you're struggling to crew up a job and they go, "Oh, I know this guy is a good engineer," and I go, "Well, we can make use of that, but we're not engineers. We're animatronic creature designers and builders. Engineering is just one tool that you use to fulfill your own personal brief. I'm not an engineer. Engineering is just part of what I use to make the actual end result, the desired end result. It's a tool out of my box.
Yeah.
It's not the be all and end all of it.
Yeah.
And if I think engineering looks lovely, but I think it's going to harm the movement at the end, and I won't use it.
Yeah.
I'll do something that's a bit more Heath Robinson.
Yeah.
Because it's the best way of doing it,
Okay.
not the smartest looking way of doing it.
Amazing. How did you start doing that stuff? Were you always interested in it as a kid?
It was a hobby as a kid, yeah. Everyone else was kicking an inflated pig's bladder between jumpers.
Were you dissecting Furbies?
Football. Furbies.
For a bit late in the day.
Furbies, yeah. I was dissecting action now. But football bored me to tears. Well, I was in the garage. I used to build stop motion puppets. I built an optical printer when I was 12. I found I found the process of how you actually compose shots. So I found 2 identical Bell and Howell projectors, and I worked washing cars to buy them, and then stripped the mechanics down so I could run 2 pieces of film. And the register was terrible, you couldn't get. But I found a way of making my holdout mats, and I ended up we actually projecting that film onto the back of a opaque screen. So the end result was awful, but I actually managed to do a composite shot. As bad as it was, and as bad as the actual matte lines were, it doesn't matter. I'd managed to do it, and I'd made the mechanics to do it.
That's crazy.
And that was, yeah.
What made you want to do that in the first place? Were you like looking at the making of Star Wars or something?
Yeah, I used to. I remember when I watched Star Wars. Sorry, it was what's the old Captain Kirk?
Oh, Star Trek.
Star Trek. I remember watching Star Trek, the movie, and there was this shot where this it was one of the warbirds. Is it called the warbirds?
Yeah,
kind of
Klingon ships.
Yeah, it kind of peeled past the camera lens, and it cloaked, so it sort of just went invisible. So I jumped up and went to my garage to try and replicate it. So I had an X-wing fighter model. I had the stop motion rig that I built, which had marks on it, so you could actually write down what positions it's in. So I actually stop motion animated it, but then took all 6 axes, and then I could actually run it again and set them up and do the exact same move, and with a light wall behind to make the holdout mat. And then I got some plastic and heated it up and made it all wobbly. So if I ran it past the lens, it would make things look like they were going through water. And that's how I made it. The footage kind of, I don't know. And then I turned the lights down on the actual take, and I replicated in 8mm. And that was my thing. I just got into
Do you
effects.
still have that?
I don't. Do you know, it got in my nan's. It was in my nan's loft that my nan died, and everything got cleared out, and it all got lost. I've got one
what a
roll
shame.
of film somewhere. But if I watched it back now, I'd probably think, "Oh, it's awful."
That was your first kind of thing, though, you know.
But yeah, but it's just I just enjoyed the technicalities of it and how it worked.
Fantastic.
And I think that's missing from film now. I used to
Well, I
love
think
the
it's
fact
missing for a lot of kids now, taking things apart and putting them back together after you
They're
figure out
made
how
in such
it
a way
works.
you can't dismantle them.
When was the last time you saw a making of book of any notability? You know, every film came with a making of.
Yeah, yeah.
We used to go and get it and
Probably
look
the Grinch.
through.
It's probably the Grinch
Yeah.
that's like 20 odd years old.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I used to like the heyday. Like you'd watch Back to the Future, and you could see that it was an effect shot, but it was. I think it was the heyday because it was good enough to be convinced by it, and a little bit of squinting, you can just believe that it's all real. But you could still just about see it was an effect, and it made you interested in how they'd done it and the process. If it's done too good, you've kind of lost that interest in the effect because it's just too believable sometimes. That's just my thing anyway.
That's an interesting point. Never thought of it like that.
You know, there's a scene in, I think it's the second one, where the DeLorean takes off.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's coming in, but it flies in, then it curls in, it's the model on the Moco rig, you know. Then it comes back, then at some point it goes behind a tree, and it becomes the real car coming off a ramp. And it matches perfectly, and I love that. Because then you can sort of see, you can just about see where the model becomes the real car. And that just made me interested in effect.
There was a golden age, though. When I'm 51 now.
I'm 55.
So we're very similar alongside.
Similar enough, yeah.
So things like Explorers and, or the Goonies and that. There were lots of sexy movies and, all the Labyrinth and the Jim Henson stuff.
Yeah.
And
even
the
Muppets.
The Muppet Show was glorious.
It was amazing. An amazing time to be alive.
Starfighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But they made you feel so good, those films and those TV shows. They were really, they were cozy and nice so it was like you were it was a cuddle, it was a kind of a hug, it was a warm feeling.
Yeah.
But you were sort of witnessing all these things that you knew weren't real. Like the Muppet Show, you can tell they're Muppets, you can see the rods, but the performances were so good that you didn't care that you were looking at a sock puppet. You were sad when Kermit was sad. And
I think you kind of you could believe it was good enough to. That's what I'm saying. It's good enough to believe in it, enough to buy, and what it's doing for the story. But it was also a chance to witness the creativity and be in awe of it a bit. Do you know what I mean? And think, how have they done that? And be interested in how they've done it.
Well, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was such a good film.
That blending of live action and puppetry.
Cartoon, and then things underneath, and then and I think it was one of the first films where they, even though that was done with animation, it was a way of highlighting, even with a vis effects shot today. Now you have to actually do the interaction part. The shirt's being pulled by a CG character. You have to make the shirt move. And there was a lot of that there, but it was being sort of frame animation. Yeah, it was good cell animation. It was great. Yeah, I loved the fact that it was around when it was those films, when it was E.T. and it's just a last Starfighter. And
I wish they would make more stuff like that instead of all CG. It just doesn't have the same feel.
It doesn't. And it's one of these things. Before we started, it's like you say, you've got to be careful what you say because you're still working it. But we were talking today about why the prequel to The Thing didn't work, and I'd seen a lot of the stuff that my friends at the ADI did, and I just really wish I'd seen that make it onto camera and embellish that a little bit with post rather than replacing it. I don't know, because I think they missed a trick. The whole point, the whole fan base for The Thing is based solely in practical. And the fact that they didn't go down that route, and they should have worked to make that work, is I think there's
nothing digital in it,
and not at all. And it's like there's a little bit of stop motion, and it's all just in camera practical. And it's all the better for it, and it's still today, after all this time, stands up amazing. You never have to squint at all. And I think the other thing as well, just as a side point, we were talking about the prequel. The thing that I think made the original one work is because whenever The Thing did anything, whenever it split open and grew arms and things, it was for a reason. McCready comes in and starts firing a shotgun into it, so it has to get away, so it grows arms out of its back, smashes through the boards and pulls itself up to the ceiling. Then Charles comes in with a flamethrower, so it splits open and this sort of flower of dog tongues comes and tries to grab it, and everything it does is for a reason. But in the prequel, it's just doing weird stuff for the sake of looking weird because it looks freaky.
Yeah.
But at no point did I feel it's doing it for a reason. You know what I mean? It wants to hide until it can't hide anymore, and then it'll do whatever it takes to survive. And this is just doing stuff all over the place for the sake of it. And it's a bit of a shame for me because I love The Thing. It's one of my favourite films of all time.
Yep.
I think the Bottom's work's just incredible. Again, still stands up over all this time.
Yeah. So how did you go from that to working, your stuff? How did you start work? What was your first work in that area?
Well, I was a northern chap. I came from this small town called Congleton that no one's ever heard of. It's a bit like Trumpton by day, and Beirut by night, But I grew up there, and no one there knows anyone who works in film or anything. So my foot in the door was scenery. I just thought I'm dyslexic, which is amazing that I've actually managed to write books now. I've trained it away, but that's something else. I enjoyed effects, but I tried going down the college route, and I did a year at college. Because of my dyslexia and my inability to convey basic information, I realised I was never going to pass the exams. So I stopped going after a year, and I thought, and my mum said, what are you going to do now then? So I'm going to try and get into films and television. She goes, how are you going to do that? You don't know anybody. And she's been in films. She was in Hard Day's Night and Chitty Bang Bang and Goodbye Mr. Chips. She was a dancer, yeah. And she said, you don't know anybody, and there's some truth in that. You have to know someone a bit. There's a little bit of a clickiness to it, So I rang the BBC and I said, who does your scenery? Because I knew the BBC didn't do it anymore, and they said, well, Studio 2000 and Watson Corey, and they named these things, so I rang them up. And I'd done a bit of engineering work, an apprenticeship, I learned lathe and a bit of welding, so they said, can you do that one? What have you done before? So I reeled off all this, this is my lie, I reeled off all these shows I'd done scenery for. He said, that sounds great, yeah, we're looking for someone, come in. Now all these shows I reeled off were local Amdrams. I built scenery for and sets, but I was quite good at it, and people used to use me a lot, so it wasn't a lie, really. I just didn't get paid. But within a year, I was running the mechanical build for You Bet. So yeah.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
So, yeah, to build all the stuff for You Bet. So yeah, that was my foot in the door. But then I worked for Alton Towers over winter because TV work dried up. So I found they did all their new theming and stuff over winter. So I went to Alton Towers while TV work, while they were doing all their new scheduling. And then Alton Towers was bought out by Two Swords. So overnight I became the head of metalwork for the Two Swords art workshops. So then we did the Chamber of Horrors refit. And I went down to London to fit all this stuff, and I met a load of prop makers and stuff who work in TV and film, and then they said, oh, you should try Artem. So I stopped in Artem on my way home, and I sort of met Hayley. And then I got home, we didn't have mobiles then, I got home and my mum she said, oh, someone called Hayley's called, and they gave me a job there, and then so they got me in.
Small world, I guess.
So I had to tell them at Alton Towers I don't work for them anymore. And they weren't happy.
Oh dear.
What was the first puppet you ever built?
Do you mean for production?
No, just where did that come from?
It was a finger, and I think I used to say I was somewhere between 6 or 8. And I built a finger of my finger. And I took a mould out of plaster of Paris, and then I made a skin just out of Copydex, which eventually went I think I tried to even foam it up, but did I put some stuff in it? Did I try and put some bicarb in it to froth it up?
That's quite a thing to think of as a 7-8-year-old.
Yeah, I know, but that's the way my brain worked. It was bizarre. Then I made sort of bone and put some string on it and some things and pulled it, and then I made this finger that looked really real. I had the bones sticking out, and I used to get people to hold it like a kiwi. Then they'd pull the string and it would twitch in their finger, and that was the first thing I ever made.
So you just figured it out?
Yeah, I just figured it out. I just had a go.
So you knew what you wanted, and you just filled in the blanks.
Yeah.
Which is what you
but
do with art.
But I got this from books. There was always, every time you looked at a making of book, there was always a bit of information missing, wasn't there? So I used to have all the books open. When I found out how to do composite shots, I learned most of that from The Making of Tommy, a book about the making of Tommy, the Doctor Who movie.
Yeah.
And they had a whole thing about blue screen, And so I knew I didn't have the process, the filters to make the chroma key blue turn black and all that. So I just found a way of making my own holdout mats. And then I made an optical printer and went from there. So that was it. It was just gathering information that was never complete, and then trying to make it complete, you know. I used frog DNA to complete this sequence, you know. And I ended up with a dinosaur that could reproduce.
Life finds a way.
Life does find a way.
Were you a writer as a kid?
No, it was terrible. As I say, I came away with school with not very much. But I got the only it was called A plus when I was, this A star thing sounds like something from kindergarten. But yeah, the highest thing you could get for an exam was an A plus, and the only A plus I got was my engineering drawing. And I completed the exam in 20 minutes. It was all these like different views, went that one, and I did a couple of drawings. And I went and handed it in. I remember the teacher, because they had such a low opinion of me. The teacher that was sitting the exam, I came and handed it in, and they went, look, if you want to come back in a bit, I shouldn't do this, and try again. I went, no, I finished it. And they were like, yeah, if you want to come back in a bit and try again, and you know, try and finish it, I'll let you back in. I went, no, I've done it. And she was like, yeah, if you want to come back. I was like, okay. So I walked off having finished it, and I got an A plus on that, because it was shapes. It was shapes. It wasn't words, it was shapes. And I could do shapes. And I think that's the basis of whatever my skills are now, if I got them. So yeah, but writing, for me, writing stemmed from the fact that I struggled so much. Actually, it started, my decades-long quest for a cure started when I kind of sort of fell in love with this girl I met when I was young. Her name was Helen. I can see her face now. She was lovely. And it's quite embarrassing. I felt compelled to write this girl a poem. So I wrote her this poem, and I did it on parchment type paper I found. And I stained it with tea bags a bit, make it look old. And I wrote this thing out. And I stuck it on dowel so you could roll it up. And I made little finials with a file and sandpaper, stuck them up. And I handed it to this girl. That aside, as embarrassing as that is, I didn't get a date with her. I think she just spat on my back and walked away. I was hoping for more. But I suddenly went, hang on, I just wrote a poem, and I didn't see them count the same blocks I did when it comes to just conveying basic information. Apparently it's a different part of your brain.
Really? So it wasn't that you had a thing you wanted to attend to that overrode it. It was
just that by chance. By chance, I wrote that, so I carried on writing poetry, and then poetry became something quite flowery, literary, prose, short stories. And then I tried to make them less literary, and make them a bit more mainstream, a bit more genre, you know. And after years of doing, I've always got rid of the dyslexia.
Oh.
And I think I was spurned on for doing it because I had such a bad time at school, and I was ridiculed by the teachers. I think that pushed me. And finally getting published was all my metaphorical flag in the top of a metaphorical mountain that I'd climbed, you know, to get published. And when I got an offer to publish, I took it. It was a nice feeling, you know.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah.
Because school can sometimes do a lot of damage because they teach you a certain way, and if you can't line up in the way that they teach it, then you're a problem, and there's a, you know.
You can be intelligent without being academic, and when we were at school, that wasn't really recognised, was it?
No.
Well,
there was still one avenue.
Still not as recognised as it could be. I mean, just because you have a master's degree doesn't mean you're smart.
No, that's it. And my partner Zoe, she's a doctor, you know, she got doctorates and all sorts. And she says the same thing. She says it's just a piece of paper, and it shows that you can knuckle down and complete things. It shows you can do hard work, but that's as much as it means. I remember was it David Cameron was in power, and he was trying to address this thing that some people aren't academic, you know, they're better with their hands and they have skills. So his thing was to teach them plumbing, and that was it. That was the answer. You're not academic, we'll teach you plumbing. And I had to laugh. Yeah, the relocation of water. That's it. That's all you're good for. So that made me laugh. Even then, it wasn't that case of water.
The relocation of water.
So yeah, it was a funny time. But it obviously left a scar. But yeah, it pushed me to do something.
Yeah. That's awesome, though, that you were determined to do things that you wanted to do. And when you were doing the things you wanted to do, like the Matt, figuring out how to do, composite shots and things, you just went for it.
Yeah.
And that's really good. And I think people should know that, if they've been hit by things, I think, like at school, it's easy, I think, to just dwell on what you're not good at. And then you never really think about what you could actually be really good at. If someone doesn't encourage you. Did you encourage
totally.
or did you encourage yourself?
I encouraged myself. There was a funny time. We were in metalwork class. And I remember, I don't know how this ever happened. I remember we spent about 2 months making a poker. And it's there's a stick in the middle, there's
like
a handle.
Fireplace poker?
Yeah, there's a handle and a pointy bit. Now, I don't know how the hell that lasted weeks, but it did. So he was showing brazing one end on, And I was there with a little pad, just doing stuff, not taking any notice, because I soldered stuff all the time, and I just knew what it was, Yeah, a bit of borax, a bit of things, some flame, whatever, Don't get it too cherry red, otherwise it's probably going to carbonate, So I was doing this, then suddenly, in my haze of writing this stuff down, like Charlie Brown's teacher voice, Clarke, and oh yeah. He goes, I don't know what's so interesting there, blah, 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 that you think you're going to learn how to make this book. So he made me stay after class. It was the last class of the day. He said, so what was so much more interesting than learning how to do something? So he got me to get my pad out, and he said, what's this? I said, I'm working out the gearing on how to make 2 Bell & Howell projectors into an optical printer. Because I've got... I've got to bastardise 2 mechanisms so the actual forks to shuttle the film down get in sync and it doesn't throw. And he's like, what? And at the end of this conversation, me explaining what it was, and I said I do soldering at home, so I know it works. And he said to me, I remember never forget this. He said, "I will never bother you with pokers ever again." And I just thought it was really nice.
To a collective relief, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, could have been taken the wrong way to Madam. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how that all birthed.
So what was the last animatronic project you had?
So yeah, I've been working lately a lot in the special effects field. I think I did 5 Star Wars and at the end of that, I just think I got offered to work with SFX, which I still do animatronics within the remit, but I get to do other things as well, which is quite interesting. But the last, could you even say it's animatronic? If you've seen the trailers or you've seen Wicked, there's a 17 or 18 foot tall animatronic face, and it's the Oz head, and that's the last thing that was my puppy, so for my baby, if you want to call it. And that was interesting because I got on that film the first thing I built was you've seen the library in the trailers, it rotates, and that's all practical, it's all built, And we got a great team of guys building that thing. But I had to build a scale model of it first, so I built the things and the model making and molds, and built the mechanics so they could sort of see how it's going to work, and use that to work out the choreography, for the dance sequence. But then this enormous head hoved into view, and they didn't really know how they were going to do it. I think they had this, and I loved this. That's the whole. Wicked is one of the favourite films I've ever worked on. Out of the 65 or 70 films I've ever worked on, Wicked's my favourite. And they had this thing where we'll do it practically until we can't. And that was the saying, that was the brief. We'll do it practically until we can't. So they wanted to do it practically, but they didn't really know how. So I asked them just to print a load of the bits out. And the reason I'm questioning if it's animatronic, because I always if anyone asks me what is an animatronic, I always say it's a mechanical representation of organic life, you know. So is a face made out of panels organic life? But it's supposed to look organic, so I think it is an animatronic, isn't it? It's just huge. Just a huge animatronic.
It just acknowledges it's mechanical, like Bobo the owl from Clash of the Titans. You
That's
know,
it, yeah.
You've got to believe it's living, but it's clearly mechanical.
But the movements have to be organic to actually sell it. You know, to actually build those triggers that make you look at it and see owl or see face. You know. So I went away to my own workshop for 3 days and built Mark 1. And then from Mark 1 they could see what I'm getting at, and then I drew a map of where I think the panel should be. It turned out Martin was odd. Didn't realise this till a short while ago. Actually did the new design work on the shell designs. So they printed out a 12th scale set of those for me again. I had to change shapes of them and were able to stack them, you know, move them. Built the second iteration and they loved it so much. That's the one we built. There was 63 or 65 panels in total, and we just scaled up my drawings and made it hydraulic. And I worked with a puppeteer on the day. And I think there's only like 5 lines or 6 lines in all of the 2 films, but it's quite an imposing thing when you see it. It's huge, and it kind of looms at you out of these threads that hang over its face. Quite imposing, but yeah, it's good. Pretty proud of it. There's also, how much can I say? When's this going out?
Probably not for a few weeks, but
I think most people will have seen it.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. There's Elphaba in the film receives a letter inviting her, and people know this because it's in the trailers, inviting her to go to the wizard's palace. And it's delivered on this little balloon, and it was originally just going to be a little miniature hot air balloon with a basket and the letters in it, but we kind of went further than that, and it's got these 3 animals on it. There's a walrus playing the cymbal, and there's a couple of. I come up with this thing that if these 2, there's a penguin and a puffin. I said, well, these penguins shuffle around and press a button, and the letterbox thing flaps open, and the other one shuffles around, presses another button, and then the letter shoots out, and then all shuts again, and there's got these propellers blowing it along. So I had a right fun doing that. So I mechanised it to look like it's an automaton, like it's got gears and cams. So I mechanised it like an automaton, but instead of going to cams, I sent it to servos so we could change the timings on the fly. We had 3 of us puppeteering this thing, with loads of switches, like so getting turning the propellers off and coming in, and someone's doing the propeller, then we go around and we press that button, flick another switch, the thing, then the letter pops out. So it was a really complicated little thing in this tiny little box, and that was great fun. But I suppose that's animatronic.
I can't wait to see that.
Now, when you're doing something like that, do you have to sort of, do you decide that, like, does someone say we want to do this as animatronic, or do you find yourself in a position saying, look, this is why you should do it this way, because I know you probably want to cut corners, although you did say they want to do it live as much as possible, because sometimes with makeups, I know you have to say, well, we want to go this route because da-da-da, and you almost have to kind of like make your ground first.
How much
you have
freedom
to
did you have in the
establish
design
yourself.
process?
Well, this is what I think I'm told has happened. I turned up and then I got involved, and then they seem to realize, I was told by someone high up, I won't say it was, that they've realised that there's a guy here who can build animatronics and creatures and make things. And that started a dialogue off, a sort of an action dialogue. So I started liaising with props then, and what else can we do? We've got this guy here, what can we give him to do? And they started using me, which is quite fun.
So it wasn't too sometimes departments like, no, it's mine, we don't want any,
No, not at all.
Seizing things.
No,
that's really good.
Yeah, Jamie, who's the head of props, I'm actually, he's head of props on this next film. We're continuing the same thing, so they've got an idea. I tell them how we can make it, if we can make it work and what it could do, and they go, yeah. So they'll give me slight sketch model first, and I'll make something around that, then I'll go and dress it.
Mm-hmm.
And it works really well. It works nice. And it's all the same skills you use for animatronics, but for different things. But on Wicked, there was quite a few animatronic elements in it.
And when you're making like a Mark 1 like this, what do you physically make it out of? Do you make a card version, or do you make it out of metal, or
No, I
do you 3D print stuff?
make it out of metal. I just think it's so quick. But I'm people despair at me because I'm just king of the bandsaw. I just bandsaw everything.
That is quick.
If someone banned bandsaws, I'd be absolutely screwed.
Are you doing aluminum or brass? Or
Yeah, aluminium. Yeah, aluminium and brass is my favourite things, and yeah, I don't know. It's funny. It's amazing how many people they just need to have everything machined out by some computer controlled thing, and I just like the organic process. I just sort of draw it all out on a piece of paper and stick the piece of paper on a bit of alley, centre punch it, drill it, and bandsaw and lineage it. Within like 2 minutes, you've got the piece and you're bolting it on. It's so quick. It's so quick, and it looks machined, but it's quick. I noticed years ago, I had to take. I won't say who made it. I had to take a job on set, and it was one of these things where. Servos had been glued in, and and anyway, it went wrong. So I had to go and crack things out, and invariably, when you take the skin off, everyone leans in to say, "Oh, look, let's have a look at this thing," And I noticed the comments were erring on the side of, "Oh well, no wonder it went wrong. Look at the fucking thing, It's stuck together with glue, But I've noticed that if something goes wrong and it looks nicely made, they go, "Wow, look at this thing, look at that, wow, look at this thing they made for us." And they leave you alone. So I realise there's something good to be had from something looking well made, And also, but at the end of the day, I just don't think everything needs to be done on a milling machine or a lathe all the time. I'm quite happy to bandsaw something out and lineage it and file it and a bit of Scotch Brite, and it looks great, And it's quick, and it works just as well as something that's been engineered to death.
Yeah,
and that's my takeaway from it.
Yeah, kind of understanding the psychology of how people judge what you do, and like you say, put on a show for them in the right way.
But it's also noticing we did Animal Farm years ago. It was a Robert Halmy, a Hallmark production.
Yeah, I've got some pictures that you gave me for the book.
And we did Animal Farm. We built 15 animals for that at Henson's. And I would try and take something away from every film I work on. The one thing I took away from that, we had all these pigs. They were all hydraulic. They all weighed 400 pounds. And they were absolute bastards to move around the hillsides of Lugalore. We were exhausted at the end of 4 months of that shit. You know what I mean? But the one thing I noticed, the best moving animal out of there, with everything we built, was the horse. The horse for Boxer, and all the horses were the same, but it was just a 3-rod power linkage up the neck, same as I used on the one on Warhorse. And it was so direct. You move one hand and the head moves. It's so direct. There's no delay. There's no lag, and it was just completely organic. And the mechanics, all the mechanics did is set the actual geography of how a neck moves. Realistically, as long as you get that right, then it can't help but look organic. And that was my one takeaway: that the simplest mech there was the best moving. And it's amazing. I've seen so many times when people, they want to build the hell out of something, make something with linear actuators, because it looks dead technical, it looks impressive, but it's not the best answer. Sometimes a rod, 3 rods with UJs at either end is the best way of doing it.
Well, I think just with the solenoid, with hydraulics, there's that doesn't. It's you can't get that.
You have to tune it with gain and all sorts. Yeah, I mean, it could stutter.
Pain in the ass.
And the other takeaway is weight. I try and peel the strip weight off everything, because inertia is your enemy. the lighter you can make something, then the easier it is to slow it down without it wanting to. The inertia, the weight of the head on the end of the neck, is want to make it rock for the next 5 minutes. It's amazing how these big steel plate mechanisms I see, and I'm like, God, you don't need that. And I was on one job. I won't say what the job was, but they built this thing, and it was like big plate knuckle shoulder joints. And I said, why you made it out of that? And he went, well, those servos will move 10 tons. I said, yeah, but the leg weighs 10 pounds. It's not about what the servo, the ram will do. And if the ram will move 10 tons, it's probably too big a ram. So put a smaller ram in it, and then the same amount of oil moving will make it move quicker, and it's less weight, and you don't need a big knuckle. And it just snowballs. They can snowball until you end up with this behemoth you can't get working. And you have to ramp everything down, and you're never going to get like nice sharp movements and anything that looks remotely organic. So yeah, weight. I just try and keep everything super lightweight. Yeah, like the liquor on Resident Evil, we knocked this thing up. I had no time, no money. And they used to say, oh, how long to take this out? Now we finished the shot. I'll go, oh, 2 minutes. You've done screw the feet, and one person could pick it up. And they were like, oh yeah, because it doesn't have to weigh 2 tons. It doesn't. No. So yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of that.
Well, it comes back down to your logic comments. Making it has to make sense.
Yeah, no, totally.
There's got to be a logic to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think ease of shooting it is as important as the realism. You know, you can build the most realistic moving thing in the world, but if it takes 10 days to move the thing, or you have to set up somewhere, build this set around it, then there's no point in it existing as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't have to be. All you're moving is skin and fiberglass. So nothing. I don't see why something should ever have to weigh dozens of tons. You know, because all it's got on top of it is skin and a core. You know, and a few servos.
Can we talk a little bit about how it seems to me, and I'm not as familiar with the world of animatronics as you are, but it seemed to me there was a time where, probably about 10, 15 years ago, a lot of people were thinking it was just going to die off because of CGI would replace everything. And then whereas we had like Jurassic Park and the Star Wars movies, it seemed like there was a swing right back the other way. Was that a fair thing to say, or do you think I've got that a little bit over-optimistic?
No, I think it is fair, but I couldn't help, because I was actually at the time, I was in meetings on films at the time, and I could see a really interesting thing was said once. We were in one of the meetings of Resident Evil. It's actually quite a fun film.
Was that for animated extras? Or?
That was animated, yeah. And we built this stuff, you know, and it's none of it's great because we didn't have time, money for great. It was there to fulfil a brief and basically to try and cover cut-ins, you know, interaction. It was all going to be CG, all of it pretty much. So that was a red rag to a bull to me, Richard Jurisic. Yeah, a great man. Richard, one of the guys who helped start RLM and Boss Effects, you know. But he said to me in a meeting one day, he said, look, I like you in the because I was going, well, why don't we just shoot it with the animatronic? And one day he stopped the meeting, he said, look, I like your enthusiasm, never lose it. He said, but animatronics looks mechanical. It's never going to be on film, so I don't have to say this again, the kind of thing at me. I was like, oh, okay. So I sat back, I thought, all right, so I let all the last meetings happen, and they went over to Germany. And I said, right, that sculpt, carry on sculpting it, let's not mould it yet. He goes, yeah, well, we need. I said, no, I'll just measure the sculpt, don't change the dimensions, I'll start building the mech around measurement. Let's make it as good as it can be, you know. And we ended up doing a lot of the shots with the animatronic. We did a show and tell one day, and a certain Paul Anderson looked at it, and I remember the look I got from Richard Jurisic in the back of my neck. Paul Anderson stood there and he said, Richard, he says, yes, Paul, he says, can you answer me a question? He goes, yeah. He goes, why aren't we shooting this fucking thing? And from that moment on, Richard Jursic, I don't think like me, but because it kind of proved that animatronics can move nice. And I heard second hand, he didn't say it to my face, but someone said, look, Richard never said it to me, but he's actually said to me that irrespective of time and budget that you've had, but he said it's one of the best moving animatronics he's ever seen, which is quite nice, really, really organic movement. And in the film, you just see it thrashing about, but it's really capable of doing some really nice, subtle stuff. And that was a 5-rod version. It was a 3-rod that was used on the horse. I developed this thing of a swinging T 5-rod and a pump off the back of that, which I've used quite a lot. It's super organic. So yeah.
Do you have pictures of that we can use? Maybe put in the show notes?
Yeah, I'll dig something out.
Cool.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. We don't have to do it again today, but it'd be good, yeah.
Email us and things. Do that. Yeah, we do that.
I may be talking a long time ago about doing a book on animatronics. Are you still going to do that?
I've started writing it.
Fabulous. Is that fabulous? I don't know.
I don't know, it's one of those things. I get mixed feelings. I'm like, am I giving away... And it's not like I've got secrets, but there are ways I do things. But then again, I don't know. Yeah. But I don't know. You've done this. I haven't done this textbook thing, So what I'm doing is I'm spilling my brains out on the paper. Everything I know, trying to keep it in the right compartments, in the right chapters. And then I think my second stage is any drawings I need to do to describe what I'm, as an example, I'll do all the drawings, get my drawing board out, do all those, scan them, and then I'm going to go on a big hunt for everybody I know for pictures, reference, the kind of thing, and then so I can have the pictures, then compile it. But it's a hell of a thing to do.
Would you consider building? Because I think you were talking a little bit, I'm sure, and we can cut this out if you don't want me to say about this. But you were talking about doing not like a kid's book, but like cutouts of basic linkages and mechanisms to sort of describe the essential process to get people's head around it. Because there isn't much in the way of learning resources for animatronic
no,
stuff.
there isn't. There's hardly anything, is there?
No, and nothing on a level that somebody without an engineering degree would be able to unravel and understand.
Because I would do a section on. I've written 2 lists. What you need, what you can get away with, and build something, or what would be ideal to own. From like if you haven't got a bandsaw, get a hacksaw, that kind of thing. But yeah, there was talk of doing that kind of thing, wasn't there? Maybe I could even have a part of a thing and pop out to show how a slave linkage works.
I think that aside from it, we don't have to put this in. I think if you made like a booklet where it's like, you used to get like costumes you would cut out.
No, so you always have those tabs on.
The little tabs, yeah. So you had
and
that.
never held.
Yeah, but you had something like that where you basically have like a thing that you stick, or it's in thick card, and then they have the little split pins as mechanism.
Well, you could probably get somebody to mass produce laser cut pieces.
Totally, you could.
I don't know if I want to say this out loud now because I don't know if it's a good idea, but I always love doing Tamiya kits. You get the Tamiya kit, radio control. And I used to enjoy putting it together as much as thrashing up and down the road and jumping off curbs. But I thought I could design a Tamiya, which is a puppet thing, when you put this thing together, and then you kind of put this thing on, then you move it, and it walks along the table. You can, and has all the linkages, and that'd be quite a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Maybe go to somewhere like Tamiya and see if they want to kind of mass produce it. But
yeah.
I don't know. Just do a dragon head with a thing, and then it's got these linkages and then things that fan out and control.
Yeah, because just from building, seeing how that comes together, you think, what if I tried putting this into something completely different?
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's a funny one. I find it a fascinating subject because I think you take anybody and make anyone a better painter, but you're never going to make anybody a great painter unless they've got it in them. And I think there is people that are ripe for absorbing stuff and becoming good at a good thing. I'm hopeless at accounts. Great with shapes. We all have a strong point, mine happens to be shapes. So I've met people that you're telling them stuff over and over again, and they're just not getting it. And I find that interesting when it comes to, like, not anyone can become something. Not anyone can become an accountant. Not anyone can become someone who lays roads. They just don't get the timings of tarmac, and they just don't understand that when it's at this temperature, that's the time to roll it. Sometimes some people won't get something, but I think to put a resource out there that people can kind of follow would be
great.
Quite fun, wouldn't it?
Because we've had emails from people asking about how would I learn animatronics and stuff.
Yeah, I would love to write a book
I
about it, but I don't
I've
know
had that
enough about it to
question
do
a
it.
lot. And and I just go through the same thing: get animals in motion, get the anatomy, and just learn how to make stuff. I started learning. I had a butcher's hacksaw my uncle gave me. One of the ones with the funny wooden handle.
Mm-hmm.
so bloody awkward. I had down a few blunt files, and that's what I used to make my stuff out of.
Yeah, there was a company. I think it's called Automaton Magazine, and they make like wooden laser cut things and little model kits and stuff. And they have a book on basic linkages and stuff, but it's very niche and no one really knows about it. But I just you should do something. I mean, like you haven't got a fucking million and one other things to do. But
this is the thing. It's time, isn't it? Mm. And the reason I write is because it's another creative outlet. And I think writing about what I do every day isn't a creative outlet, so I find it very easy to close that file, close the file off mechanical principles of animatronics and robotics. So finally close that down, then open the file for Slake and start rewriting that again, because it's a creative outlet for me.
It's a real switch in your brain, isn't it, to be in a different headspace.
But you're creative like I am, you have to have another outside your work, but when I'm not doing it, I need another creative outlet, and writing is it. It's creating worlds with just words.
Yeah, you need to be stimulated, and if no one's going to give you that stimulation, you'll just come up with your own interest, which is really good that you can do that. Some people just can't do that. They need to be imposed upon them to have a problem to solve. But it sounds like you will always dig around trying to find your own problems to solve.
Yeah, that's it. No, totally. Yeah, but that's the thing, though, isn't it? Don't you find? I find a lot of the people who got in the industry when we got in were fanboys. They loved it. They were already into it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't an option suggested to them by some tutor or teacher going, "Oh, you're quite good at art. Maybe you could work in film or television."
Yeah, no, we always just wanted to make
I never thought of that. It's like we were actually into it.
Yeah, you're mostly being told there's no way you're going to do it. That's what actually happened when you started.
Oh God, another red rag to bull boat. Yeah, and that was the thing. For my mum said, "Oh, that's never going to happen, is it?" And she was upset that I'd left college.
Right.
And I thought that was it. And by the end of 2 days, I had a job at Studio 2000. And she was like, "Oh, okay." How did that happen? Because I bloody made it happen, God damn it,
Yeah, I believed in myself, even if you didn't.
Well, that's tenacity,
Yeah.
If somebody tells you, "Oh, you're never going to do that," say, "Fuck you, I'll show you."
Makes you wonder if those people do that, knowing that that's going to have the result.
I'm sure it does on some level with
are
some
they
teachers.
Are they ignorant, or are they just brilliant?
Yeah, I've worked with guys who really stuck it hard to the students that they saw who had potential. The ones that they knew were never going to go anywhere with anything. Yeah. They said, "Oh, that looks really good. That's fine," and off you go. Mm. And then the other ones, they go, "Oh, your shading is all wrong. This blah blah blah." Yeah. Push them to do better. So I'll show
push their
you.
Buttons. Yeah,
I'll show you. How dare you tell me my work is subpar?
That's it. That's good.
And that does work for some people. I've taught. It wasn't really until I started teaching at various colleges.
Yeah, you have to judge it right, or you might just crush your life.
But how I learned that there were people that didn't have aspiration, and that may be that I was from a privileged enough background where I was surrounded by ambition and support, but it shocked me that there were like, you know, entire classes of kids where there was very little like none of them, or a large proportion of them, felt that they wouldn't achieve much, and so they didn't aspire to. And I don't know if that's a new thing or if that would have been the same in a class full of your kids and you were actually quite unique in that.
I mean,
like,
is there a reality in it that if someone's told they'll amount to nothing, or if someone comes from quite a low enough background to think, I don't see any avenues? That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know, it depends. I'm going to sound snobby here. I've known kids and friends of mine who live in council estates, you know, when I was young. And they have whole families, their mum, the dad, the grand, none of them work. And then they grow up thinking, right, when do I sign on to the dole? And that was their lifestyle. I'm like, don't you want more than that? You know, I love being between films. But, you know, you get between, you wrap a film, you think, oh, great, I've got to take a month off before the next one starts. I'm going to enjoy that. And I make use of it. But you sit on the sofa for 2 days watching YouTube, a couple of reaction videos, or, you know, what's the
You start getting antsy.
Bruce Roberts, and, you know, and it's and then you think, oh, God, I can't sit here all day. But people, that's their lives. Some people, but they got no drive. And I wonder what that does or doesn't feed that. Why there isn't that thing of going, oh, I can't just sit here all day.
Whether that drive is there's something that could be fired up in them to make them have drive, or is it just a case of you're quite rare in that you have that independent drive?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it is a personality trait that you're either born with or you don't.
Because you could have been in that same estate, council house, with people surrounded who didn't have aspirations or inspirations, but you would have. Yeah. So it's kind of like, you know. Yeah,
but then you find out people do exist. I mean, how many millionaires and billionaires out there came from lowly backgrounds, you know, and they thought, oh, I'm going to climb out of this bucket, you know.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit here my whole life. I'm going to do something. And they, as soon as they get out and do something. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think you are born with it. Not everything's a social construct. just throw it out there.
Do you mean there is such a thing as empirical reality?
Yeah, just to poke a few hornets'
two avenues you can take to say you have nothing and you say, I want that. Yeah. I'm going to work hard and get that.
Yeah.
Or there's, I want that. I'm going to steal it.
Yeah. That's that.
Well, you can certainly, I mean, whatever happens, you can improve your situation.
Most of the time, stealing it is harder work than working hard to get it.
Oh, absolutely it is, isn't it? You know. And how much more satisfying it is, though, the fact that you've worked hard and you actually got it.
Yeah. So you look at something, you made this, and it works, and people like it.
Yeah. But if you steal constantly, eventually the consequences will catch up with you. So it's not a way to do things, is it?
And all that does is then just close avenues off of your life. And like, well, you'll never get that now because you got a theft on your records. You'll never get this because you got, you know. And all it does is your options dwindle away to nothing, and then you have none. So don't steal, kids.
Stay in school.
I think I nicked a gummy bear once from one of those stations in
25 years statutory. Yeah, good.
I think it was a gummy bear.
Watch your 6.
But yeah, don't know. It's funny. It's interesting. This is all part of observing.
Yeah.
Observing things. Do you know what? Back to animatronics. I was thinking in the back of my mind about believability and just because we're just talking about reality.
And that's the thing. I'll let you get back, but you know, it doesn't have to be realistic. It has to be believable.
Yeah, totally. And it's just in the back of my mind there as we were talking. It made me think of this trend I saw. I've seen sometimes of things being made to look like a product. Trying too hard to try and make the animatronic or the makeup outlook look as close to a product and perfect as possible. And back to Animal Farm. We were on Animal Farm, And we built the horses and the pigs, and we were up on this flash flood happened. This storm came in. We were in this. It was this valley in Luggalaw in Ireland, and it had its own weather system. It could be sunny as hell where you got, and then you got the thing, and you walk down into this valley, and it could be absolutely like a thunder and lightning, even if there's no clouds outside of this, So we were filming, and they said, "Oh, there's a flash flood storm coming," so we had to just tarp all the pigs because we couldn't get them back. So we lay the horses down on their sides and put tarps on them and pegged it. And we had to get out there before the valley flooded because it was this bridge we drove over. We had the walk going over it. So we came back next day, and the tarps had been blowing in the wind. And on the crests, on the sculpt, it had rubbed the flock off, leaving like just the prosade and the black paint underneath because the skins were painted black, And we got it. I went, oh God, some of this going. Then we stepped back, and I went, this is my other takeaway from that film. I went, my God, it looks real. Suddenly, it looks real. It's it hasn't had this fresh flock that's been blown with air and brushed, and it spent a night under a tarpaulin being slapped and it looked like all these bits looked like scars where it caught itself on a barbed wire fence. And suddenly this horse was so believable in camera, and that was my takeaway. Not making stuff too perfect. And I just think it's become as I think the techniques of makeup and animatronics and skins and everything has become a bit more standardized. I think it's become like making a product rather than how we're going to do this. And I, to this day, and I'm not knocking, because I just saw Alien Romulus, and I loved it. I don't know, I just thought really, at last, a good Alien film. And I really enjoyed it. But Alien is one of my favourite franchises. I love Alien. Alien, the first film and the second film was great. Loved it as well. But I don't think the mouths have ever looked as good as that first mouth, which was done with piano wires and cables, stretched condoms glued on, which made it look really insect-like, and I don't think the mouths have ever looked as good as that first mouth and that first Alien, which wasn't done with a moulding technique of doing that thing and then sculpting that and taking off, doing it in clear silicone, which is all lovely and it looks really good and producty, but that first mouth looks so organic.
That's a really good point to make. I just done a film with Chris Fitzpatrick, and he does a lot of things with appliances where he'll go in and fabricate the interior of wounds that have, the whole things have been sculpted, and then work and snip into them and fabricate bits to make them look like they have a different quality, put a layer of silicone over the things. You get depth, because there's something about something coming out of a mold and then assuming that can be the complete thing. And actually sometimes fabricated things or adding fabricated elements to cast pieces, it just looks not made.
I did when I was a kid, I did a bit of a zombie panel for my face. My radiator was always lined up with plaster of Paris molds.
Just drying out.
I just paint copy decks in. That's all I had as a kid.
That's all you could find.
Yeah, that's all I could get that from Smith's. It was latex rubber. And I wanted it to look all dried out, so I glued in the hole, I glued in Rice Krispies. And when it was all dried, I knocked the tops off. And sort of coloured it and put goo in it. It looked great, because it didn't look sculpted because it wasn't sculpted. And that was the thing. It was made. It was done there and then, rather than being sculpted. As you say, the sculpting and the moulding process does give it a certain look.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
Yeah, and you can be happy with that, but there's more you can do to it.
Yeah,
to push it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a stage rather than the finished thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
And if I cut my arm open now, the skin stops, and then there's something happening underneath. It's not one solid ligneous piece, and it can work. Of course, there's some amazing sculpt out there, and that's one of the things I feel so happy about and so honoured about working in a film studio. Some of the amazing talent you get to work around, go through sculptors, the hair punchers and the feathers and the painters, just amazing. You used to walk around Star Wars and just go and do a round and look at what everyone's doing and just think, wow, what amazing bunch of artists you all get to work with, And then you go to an art gallery and someone's just dumped a load of bricks on the floor and peed on it, and everyone's going, "Ooh, oh, how amazing!" You know, you see, you see what I've been looking at all week. But people just they look at it and they don't notice it on film because it's been so good. They don't even know that what they looked at wasn't real. And you think people have made that, and you've been fooled by it. That's amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah, it's an illusion that goes hiding in plain sight. It's completely unobserved and noticeable.
Yeah, I remember someone saying, I said, I worked on Warhorse and the animatronic stuff. I'm not saying it's full of it, but they're saying there's no animatronics in Warhorse. Well, there is. There's like galloping horses, and one's falling dead, and then the one caught in the barbed wire, and there was a sequence, scene in the stalls, and the fact that you didn't see it means we've done our job,
Yeah.
That's the point. If you didn't notice it, then you've done it right. Isn't it?
Is there anything you want to talk about that we didn't cover that you think we should do?
I just hope that animatronics and makeup effects is going to carry on, because you asked a question earlier about did I ever think animatronics was going to go away, and I didn't. And I said I was in the meeting. I never finished the story. And it was really interesting to me, and this is the point where I knew it wouldn't, is when Paul Anderson, we were talking about, we can do that shot. And he goes, and they said, actually, yeah, we could do that. And Paul was sat there, and he had a frown, and he said, am I right? I'm thinking, am I right? I could add 1,000 extra animatronic shots, and as you're here already just servicing, it wouldn't cost us a penny more. I went, yeah, that's true. And he sat back and he went, but you had one CG shot and you got to pay for a whole thing, rotoscoping, scanning, blah, 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 practice the digital lighting, and every shot you add adds money. But when you build an animatronic, as long as you're there just to puppeteer through the shoot, you can add another 1,000 shots as long as the thing doesn't fall apart, and it costs no more money. And that's where I knew there's a place for it.
And that's what the visual effects guys don't get, or they don't want anybody to get, because it's more money for them. But visual effects is far more expensive.
I deal with visual effects a lot, and they really, like, if we can get it in camera or something in camera that we can manipulate, it's better. And they're really good. There isn't this them and us thing, which did exist for
it did.
a
That's
time.
the thing.
It did. 100% existed.
It was huge when I was still in it.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, we can do everything. We were on the defensive. It did exist. There was a big wall up.
I distinctly remember that on the first Harry Potter, there were meetings about the centaurs, and we did in the creature effects department, we did a bunch of stuff, and Esty did tests with flocking, and they were going to make this, practical version, and then it went visual effects in the end. But now I think there's so much, we know there's going to be visual effects involved in Chained to the Sky and all kinds of stuff anyway.
Yeah, there is.
That they're not looking for more stuff to do, because they already know they're going to be in every single fucking shot.
That's it, yeah.
So the grading and
they're
everything.
Like, please take some of the work off us a bit. It'll make our job easier.
I think that's what made Beauty and the Beast, the one with Emma Watson.
Yeah.
In it, because I think Dave Elsey did the original suit for that.
I worked on that
the first
gorgeous stint, yeah.
It was a spectacular suit, and then they fucked it all up by going VFX for the whole thing.
Well, I was on that at the start, and it was there was a definite. I think Dave and Lou were trying to sell the idea of doing it real, because they were like, no, well, you're just building a reference suit. That's all it's for. And I think there was this feeling that, but they were fighting a losing battle because they just weren't interested.
They'd already made their mind up.
And they said, we did this thing, and they said, oh, don't bother with a tail, because you can't make a tail that moves well. And I made a tail in a day. We put it on the thing, and the producer actually said, I don't want to upset any producer, but the producer said, you can't make a tail that looks real, so forget tail. Just don't do tail. So I made a tail, pulled the skin over, and stuck it on for this test. When I had the tail kind of, I'll send you a photo, just swinging like this, and everyone went, wow, that tail's awesome. Everyone from loads of people get going, wow, that tail looks so real, that's great. It was like,
let's not use it.
And that, and my sense was that got the backup of this producer.
Over here, please.
He got the backup of the producer.
Right.
And
so he dug his heels
Dave's
in.
like, this is great that we can do the tail, but it got his backup because he said that it couldn't be done. And it just instilled this push away that was happening.
But that's the thing, like, they said, like, oh, it can't be done, rather than asking you if you could have done, and then just pay for a fucking few days to try.
Just
because
say,
if it works,
I can prove
fortune.
it in a day. I made it in a day, one day, and it was done. And it moved, and you could have filmed on it for weeks. And that's the thing. It doesn't have to take all the time. But that's the danger. We have to make sure that animatronics never, because it's very possible to sort of think, oh, let's just do this thing and make it super expensive. But we reside within the bubble that we are cheap, and we have to remain cheap. We can be. It depends what the ratio is of how much airtime there is. We can be generally cheaper than CG, and we have to stay that way. If we start trying to over make everything and over technical, what's the best? Make it the best, easiest way to make it work, not the most expensive and wow, flashbang wallet way, because suddenly then it's, well, you're going to get comparable to what it costs to do CG, and that's the danger, isn't it? Because there's quite a few directors these days who don't. Oh, I'm going to diss directors now.
I think they just need an education.
They don't seem to have the vision, but I think it's out of necessity. People had to know what they wanted before they went into a film because they had to do it practical. But I think now they don't have to. I think it's easy to be lazy and think, well, we'll design the creature later because we're sticking it in post. We'll just film everything first. And they're not willing to put the effort in to decide what they want so you can build it real, you know. And that's a danger. That happens.
Yeah.
Well, they probably wrongly are assuming that animatronics are going to be more expensive than CGI.
How many times do you get this? People saying, well, yeah, but because of CG cheap. I'm going, have you seen the credit list?
It's not. It's not cheap at all. It's unreal. Yeah, you think it should be because we built every single kind of barrel, every single table. There's a bunch of stuff we don't have to make anymore, but that's not like they give it to you for nothing.
I have a
they all
lot
keep
of admiration.
reinventing the wheel because they don't share stuff with each other.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of admiration. CG is great. I mean, they can do photorealism, anything, but the time it takes to do that and the actual print time, the time to actually render it is what restricts them, you know. So, you know, I'm not dissing visual effects at all. It's an amazing tool, but I think we have a place, and we have to be realistic what that place is. If there's some close interaction, if there's some, you know, we can do a good job of it, you know. And I think I've always found films I watch when they cut from an animatronic to a makeup to a bit of visual effects back to the animatronic. When you're cutting between them seamlessly, you stop looking which one's which, and you just accept it for what it is. I find that. I found that on Jurassic Park. Sometimes you think, was that, and you find out shots you think must have been CG, well, actually someone in boots, you know, and it becomes a bit seamless, and you stop looking, you just stop watching the film for what it is, a load of dinosaurs killing everyone. Which is great.
I think that's it.
Okay,
I think
cool.
we've got it. That was lovely. That was really nice.
Thank you.
That was a really nice chat.
It was nice chatting as well.
Thanks for letting us come up.
Yeah, sorry, you're well welcome, and thanks for coming up.